Welcome, dear listeners, to Have Haunted, the podcast that takes you deep into the shadows of history, where myth and reality blur into one chilling truth. I'm your host, Candi, and I'm with my lovely co-host, Raji.
Hello. Hey.
Hey. We will unravel some of the most terrifying urban legends across the United States. From icy waters of Alaska to haunted lands of Connecticut, these are the tales that have haunted generations, the stories that keep people awake at night, and the whispers that refuse to be forgotten. Dim the lights, lean in a little closer, and prepare yourself, because once you hear these stories, you may never see the world the same way again.
The story of Huggin' Molly is a chilling legend from Abbeville, Alabama, used for generations to keep children from staying out after dark. As you know, once those street lights come on, you go home. There are no street
home.
That's right. That is right. Unlike other ghostly figures, she doesn't harm or abduct her victims. Instead, she embraces them tightly and screams into their ears with a piercing wail, ensuring they never forget their encounter. Wow. I'll be home one time. There are multiple theories about her origin. Some say she was a grieving mother searching for a lost child. Others believe she was a strict school teacher trying to discipline disobedient children. A more terrifying theory suggests she was never human at all. Oh, that's lovely. Several locals claim sightings describing a tall, thin figure with unnaturally long arms lurking just beyond the streetlights. One teenager recounted a harrowing experience of being grabbed, screamed at, and waking up in his front yard, unharmed but permanently shaken. Yes, the legend serves as a moral warning, much like the boogeyman or Baba Yaga. Whether real or myth, the fear of Huggin' Molly keeps children in line, and some believe that over time, stories like these can take on a life of their own.
That's crazy.
All right.
What a legend. We're going over to Alaska, unforgiving wilderness of Alaska, the Inuit tell of a creature both memorizing and horrifying called the Kalupalik. Imagine a child playing along the icy shore, their laughter carried by the cold wind, and then a hum, low, melodic, beckoning. Before anyone realizes, the child is gone, snatched by a green-skinned, woman-like being with long, bony fingers and a baby pouch sewn into her flesh. The Kalupak never returns what she takes. Some believe she is a cautionary tale meant to keep children wandering too close to the water. But what if there is a truth in the warning? What if, beneath these frozen waves, something is still waiting and watching?
I don't know, but ew. Green skin.
Sounds like the La Llorona from New Mexico, the urban legend. Those two kind of sound like that.
Did she have green skin sewn on a pouch like she's a kangaroo?
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Special shit right there, but all right. We're going to go over to Arizona, where I live. This is not exactly the location where I live, but we're in Arizona altogether. Arizona is home to some of the most breathtaking landscapes in America, and we have some kick-ass sunsets. One canyon holds a much darker secret. They call it Slaughterhouse Canyon, and its name is as gruesome as its legend. The story tells of a 19th century gold miner who never returned home. His wife, left alone with their starving children, descended into madness. When the hunger became unbearable, she did the unthinkable. She slaughtered them one by one. When the realization of her own actions set in, she let out a scream so gut-wrenching, so filled with sorrow, that is said to still linger in the canyon. Visitors claim to hear the cries of a mother lost in despair echoing through the cliffs. But is it just the wind, or is it something much, much worse?
Have you ever been there?
I did not know that. There was a slaughterhouse.
I've never.
Grand Avenue, but that slaughterhouse, I don't think even the buildings there, they probably made apartments. But I didn't know we had a Slaughterhouse Canyon. I'll have to look it up. And we're getting a new man-made lake here by next year, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. So deep in the Arkansas woods along the old railroad tracks in Gordon, a strange light appears, floating, glowing, always out of reach. Some say it belongs to a railroad worker who met a gruesome fate, decapitated by an oncoming train. His body was recovered, but his head was never found. And so his spirit roams the tracks, swinging his lantern, forever searching for what was lost. Others believe the Gordon light is tied to a violent murder, a railroad worker who, after being fired, took his revenge with a railroad spike, ensuring his boss would never work again. The victim's ghost, now bound to the place of his death, wanders the tracks, an eternal warning of what rage can do. The strangest part, the site has been documented for decades. Scientists attempt to explain it away, but no one has ever truly uncovered its origin. If you dare to visit, you must see the glow for yourself. Crazy.
Ojai, California is known for its beauty, but hidden within its serene landscape is one of the most terrifying legends of the state, the Charman. The story begins with a father and son trapped in a devastating fire. The father perished, and the son, driven mad by trauma and grief, skinned his father's burned body before disappearing into the wilderness. Now, locals claim the blackened figure, his flesh charred, his body barely human, lurks in the forest of Creek Road. Drivers have reported being chased, their car doors scratched, their windows pounded by a man who shouldn't exist. Is he a ghost, a warning, or is he something else entirely? Something that has survived in the woods for far too long. First of all, if your ass got burned, you're barefoot. I'm just saying. And you're not doing any running. I guess you don't like crap anyway. You're just angry. Never mind. We'll just...
Nevada, Colorado once stood a place of unspeakable horror, the Ridge Home Asylum. Originally built to house the mentally ill, it became a nightmare for those who entered. Patients were mistreated, some locked away for reasons as trivial as being unwanted by their families. It is said that their pain and suffering soaked into the walls, their cries of agony never fading. Although the asylum was demolished in 2004, something remains. Visitors report ghostly figures, shadows that move where no one should be, and most terrifying of all, the echoes of screams and screams that refuse to be silenced. Was this just an asylum, or was it a place where the living were turned into something else, something that still lingers in the dark? I wonder what it is. Because they demolished it. Could be parking lot, could be McDonald's, could be a Dunkin' Donuts.
Right?
Could be a vape shop. I don't know.
That's why when things get demolished, you always look up their old address to see if it's still the new buildings have the same address. Sometimes they change them, just like they did with the Amityville Horror House in Amityville, New York. It's got a different address, but we know where it is. I've passed by it plenty of times. Anyway, we're going to Connecticut now. Dudleytown, Connecticut was settled in the 1700s, but misfortune clung to it like a plague. Suicides, disappearances, and inexplicable deaths plagued the villagers. Some say the town was cursed by its founders, their bloodline doomed from the start. Others whisper that dark forces took hold, drawing people into madness, dragging them into the abyss. Today, Dudleytown is deserted. No one lives there. No one dares to. Those who enter report an overwhelming sense of dread. Whispers in the trees, shadows lurking where none should be. Could it be that the village is still claimed by whatever darkness took hold of them so long ago? Possible.
I heard that you can't visit there anyway. It's off limits, but I don't know. Have to figure it out. So on a small island in Delaware Bay stands Fort Delaware, a former Union prison camp during the Civil War. Over 30,000 Confederate soldiers were confined within its walls. Suffering from disease, starvation, and despair, thousands never left. Today, visitors report hearing the disembodied moans of soldiers, the heavy footsteps of unseen figures, and the chilling sensation of being watched. Paranormal investigators claim to have recorded eerie voices and even ghostly apparitions dressed in tattered uniforms. One legend tells of a soldier who was shot attempting to escape. His dying breath was a curse upon the fort, and to this day, those who dare to visit say they feel a cold breath at the back of their neck just before hearing the sound of a gunshot in the wind. Are these just echoes of a tragic past, or do the souls of the forgotten still roam the grounds, waiting for their stories to be told?
Key West in Florida is known for its nightlife. They have a fun nightlife. The place is pretty and full of cats and chickens. It's fun, and I'd like to go back again. Isn't the Robert doll there?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. But one bar holds a history darker than most. Captain Tony's Saloon, the oldest in town, built in 1852, but before it became a lively drinking spot, it served as something else entirely, a morgue. And if that weren't chilling enough, the bar was built around a hanging tree, a place where criminals and pirates met their end. The spirits of the condemned are said to linger, their rage never fading. Staff and patrons alike have reported doors slamming violently, bottles shattering on their own, and ghostly figures appearing in mirrors. Some have even felt invisible hands grabbing them as they sit at the bar. One legend tells of a woman in a white dress seen wandering through the saloon only to vanish into thin air. Was she one of the misfortunate souls who met their fate beneath the infamous tree? If you ever find yourself in Key West, have a good time. Have a drink at Captain Tony's, but keep an eye on the shadows because you might not be drinking alone.
You might have to go there next time you go to Key West. Take
Yeah.
pictures. All right. So in 1848, Georgia was home of a tragedy that still echoes through the walls of the old Lawrenceville jail. The legend tells of Alec, an enslaved man who fought back against his abusive master to protect his wife. In the struggle, the master fell from a loft and died. Alec, despite turning himself in and explaining his actions, was convicted and executed for murder. They say that before his execution, he sang a sorrowful tune in his cell, a song of injustice, loss, and despair. And even now, visitors claim to hear his voice drifting through the jail, a ghostly melody carried by the wind. Some say it's just a trick of the mind, but others who have stood inside his former cell have heard the song so clearly, so hauntingly, that they've been unable to stay inside for more than a few minutes. Was Alec's spirit forever trapped by an unjust fate, singing his sorrow for eternity?
The Pali Highway in Oahu is a scenic drive with dark legend attached to it, one tied to Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes, and her former lover, Kamapua'a, the demigod of pigs. All right. I like bacon. After a bitter breakup, the two vowed never to see each other again. Because of this, urban legend states that if you drive across Pali Highway while carrying pork, your car will come into an inexplicable halt. Some say it's Pele stopping you. Others believe it's Kamapua'a's refusing to let his enemy's presence cross his path. Countless travelers have reported their engines dying suddenly, their cars refusing to move until they discard the pork. Some even claim to have seen a mysterious woman in white appear on the road only to vanish moments later. Coincidence, or is it the spirit of Pele still enforcing an ancient curse? Next time you're in Hawaii, stick to chicken just in case.
You better write that down next time you go to Hawaii. Idaho's Massacre Rocks is home to one of the most disturbing legends in America, the water babies. During a time of famine, the local mothers faced an unthinkable choice: watch their babies starve or spare them the suffering. The river became the answer as they drowned their own children rather than let them waste away. Now, they say the spirits of those infants linger beneath the water. At night, people have heard faint cries only for them to morph into unsettling laughter. Some claim to have seen small hands reaching up from the river, while others tell of feeling invisible force pull them toward the water. Are these simply echoes of the past, or do the water babies still seek revenge on those who hear their cries? That's creepy.
Yeah, that's sad.
Sad and creepy. Imagine
Yes,
you're trying to swim in this little hang. No,
I'm good. I'm good. Illinois is home to one of the most haunted cemeteries in America, Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. This abandoned 82-plot graveyard has become infamous for phantom sightings. Visitors report seeing a ghostly white lady wandering the grounds, her eyes hollow, her dress is shimmering in the moonlight. Even strangers, some have witnessed an ethereal white farmhouse appearing and disappearing like a mirage. No one knows why it happens or what it means, but those who approach say they feel an overwhelming sense of dread. Paranormal investigators have captured orbs, shadow figures, and eerie voices, making Bachelor's Grove a hotspot for ghost hunters. If you ever visit, be careful where you step because something may be watching from the shadow.
Also, to add to that, you can visit Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, but you have to be off their premises when the sun goes down or you will get a ticket. They actually have like cops that do that. They don't want anybody there after dusk.
Gotcha.
Yep. So from there, we're going to head over to Indiana. In the town of Brazil, Indiana, a cemetery known as 1,000 Steps hides a chilling legend that they say if you visit this graveyard in the dead of the night and begin to climb its worn stone steps, something strange will happen. By the time you reach the top, the ghostly figure of the original caretaker will appear before you. But he is not there to welcome you. No, he is there to show you how you will die. Many who claim to have seen the vision were too afraid to share their fate. The legend says that if you try to cheat the process by skipping the steps on your way back down, something unseen will push you to the ground. Is this a test of courage or a trick of the mind? Or does a graveyard truly whisper secrets and no living person is meant to know? So with this sucker is if you're supposedly supposed to count the steps, right? To go up at like at midnight or something, I think it is. I don't know. And then you're supposed to see this dude and he's supposed to tell you how you're supposed to die, but you have to count the steps going back down. And sometimes the steps going back down are not the same as when you went up, if I remember it correctly. But check it out one of these days.
In Burlington, Iowa, there is a lonely road where a scorned spirit lingers and waits. Her name is Lucinda, a woman deeply in love, engaged to a man she believed would be hers forever. But love, as we know, is not always kind. On the night they were to meet, her fiancé never arrived. Heartbroken, Lucinda climbed to the top of the bluffs along the Stony Hollow Road and threw herself to her death. But that was not the end. To this day, travelers claim to see her ghostly form standing near the cliffs, watching and waiting. And the most terrifying part, if she leaves a rose at your feet, the legend says you will die within 24 hours. Many believe it's just a story. But would you risk standing alone on that road, hoping for a rose never to appear at your feet? No. First of all, I want to know, homeboy could have been sick. He probably had to work late. He could have been dead. So instead back in the town to say, oh my God, where's Herbert at? He didn't show me. I'm fucking cliff or whatever. I can't.
This place is not that far from Quincy. It's probably an hour and a half.
Have you been there?
No, not Burlington, but I've been near there, Fort Madison. Some legends remind us not only of ghosts, but of history's darkness. In Molly's Hollow, a place nestled in Kansas, the screams of a wronged woman still echo the night. Molly was an African-American woman in love with a white man, a relationship that angered the local townspeople. Blinded by hatred, they lynched Molly, leaving her lifeless body swaying beneath the night sky. Now those who visit Molly's Hollow claim to hear her screams pierce the air as if her soul is forever trapped, crying out against the injustice that ended her life. Some say her shadowy figure roams the hollow, watching and waiting, a ghostly presence or a lingering guilt of a town that tried to erase its crimes. That's sad.
Real sad.
People are assholes.
In Cherokee Park, Kentucky.
Cherokee, that's a good one. In Cherokee. And hillbilly is that in Cherokee, Kentucky?
Wait, give me a moment. I swore. My abs. Wait, give me a moment. I swore there was an extra constant or vowel in Cherokee.
Cherokee. That's our safe word from now on. Okay, Cherokee.
I was serious about that too. You messed me up. If you didn't, I would have read that whole thing. Oh, that was hilarious. Oh, my stomach hurts. Okay, that was funny. I'm going to see to get through this now. Wow. In Cherokee Park, Kentucky,
Sorry, that was my bad.
That is hilarious. I'm in business.
You said you meant business. Oh my God, you're having me rolling over here. Okay.
Wait. Oh, okay, hold on.
My God.
Great, I needed to laugh. Oh my God, I need to laugh.
Cherokee,
thank you. Woo, I can't even get it out. Okay, I got this. In Cherokee Park, an ancient trickster watches over those who pass by. A statue of Pan, the Greek god of mischief. Locals call it Hogan's Fountain, and the legend surrounding it is unsettling. They say that on nights of the full moon, the statue comes to life. Pan himself is said to roam the park, causing strange noises, disorienting travelers, and even whispering in their ears. Some claim to have seen shadowy figures moving through the trees. Others have felt an unseen force pulling them back, preventing them from leaving until Pan has had his fun. A mere statue or an ancient deity whose power never faded. If you ever visit, listen closely. You may hear the laughter in the dark.
or the Cherokee.
Yes, girl. I was like, that's the name? I'm like, there's Cherokee and there's Cherokee. I'm like, there's more like Cherokee.
That was funny.
Woo! Yes. I'm good.
Man. Whew. New Orleans is a city steeped in mystery, but one legend stands out above the rest, the story of the Carter brothers. 1930s, a young woman, terrified and bleeding, escaped from their home. She told police that the brothers had been draining her blood, keeping her captive for their own twisted reasons. When the authorities raided the Carter home, they found more victims, pale, weak, and near death. The brothers were executed for their crimes, and their bodies were locked away in a family crypt. But years later, when the crypt was opened, the coffins were empty. Were the Carter brothers merely murderers, or were they something more, something that could never die? To this day, people walking through the Fridge Corner report seeing figures that vanish into air, pale men who disappear before their eyes. Could it be the vampires of New Orleans still walk among us?
Far off the coast of Maine, a lighthouse stands alone on Seguin Island, and with it a legend of madness and murder. In the 1800s, a lighthouse keeper and his wife lived on the island, isolated from the world. To pass the time, the keeper bought his wife a piano, but she only knew one song. Over and over, day and night, she played the same haunting tune. Until one day, something in the keeper snapped. He grabbed an axe and chopped the piano into pieces. But he didn't stop there. He turned the axe on his wife, silencing the music forever. Now those who visit the island reporting hearing a phantom piano playing in the wind. Some say the ghost of the wife lingers, doomed to replay her song for eternity. Others believe the spirit of the keeper is trapped, forever haunted by his final bloody act. Would you dare to set foot on Seguin Island and listen for the melody of the dead?
That's a little extreme. I mean, I could understand you get pissed off with the same song playing over and over and over and over, but to chop up the piano and your wife, that's a little nutty.
Because a piano book full of music is way cheaper than the piano itself.
Right.
All right.
In the depths of Greenbrier Swamp in Maryland, a spirit lingers. A woman betrayed, murdered, and left to rot beneath the earth she was forced to dig. Her name was Big Liz, a large and powerful woman enslaved during the Civil War, but she was more than just a servant. She was a spy for the Union, working to aid those fighting against the South. When her master discovered her betrayal, he devised a cruel plan. Under the guise of trust, he led her to the murky swamps, asking her to dig a hole, one that he claimed was to hide his treasure. And then when she finished, before she could take a breath, he swung the blade, decapitating her, letting her body fall into the grave she had dug for herself. To this day, Big Liz's spirit is said to wander the swamp, her ghostly figure appearing at night, calling out to those who dare to enter. Some say she tries to lure them in the same watery grave she was thrown into. Others believe she still searches for the treasure, waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to help her find it. Would you dare to answer her call?
No.
Nope.
It was built on lies. During the Salem witch trials, Sheriff George Corwin was known as a ruthless interrogator, earning the name the Strangler for his love of torture. He pressed confessions from the accused, squeezing out their last breaths beneath the heavy stones. Some say he's even delighted in watching the life drain from their eyes, but death, it seems, was not enough to keep him at rest. The Joshua Ward house, built upon the land where Corwin once lived, has become a hot spot for paranormal activity. Visitors claim to see a dark figure lurking in the windows, books flying off shelves, and most terrifyingly, the feeling of invisible hands pressing tightly around their throats. Could it be that Corwin, even in death, is still haunting witches? Or has he become the very thing he once condemned?
Nutty. Okay. Every great city has its ghost, but Detroit has something worse, the Nan Rouge, or the Red Dwarf. For centuries, this small, red-eyed, imp-like creature has been a harbinger of doom, appearing before disaster strikes. Some say he was seen just before the Great Fire of 1805, and again before the Cadillac Company's downfall. Others claim that whenever he is spotted, tragedy follows. Detroiters have even tried to ward him off, holding an annual Nan Rouge parade, dressing up in masks to mock and banish the creature. But no matter how many times they chase him away, he always returns. Some believe he is a warning, supernatural sign that a disaster is near. Others fear he is something far worse. Would you recognize him if he appeared before you?
Deep in the cold forests of Minnesota, there is a monster born of hunger, desperation, and madness. The Wendigo, the creature of Native American legend, is said to be a twisted, skeletal being with glowing eyes, sharp claws, and a snake-like tongue. But its origins are even more horrifying. They say that when a person resorts to cannibalism, a dark spirit takes hold, transforming them into the Wendigo, a creature doomed to roam the woods, eternally starving, always hunting, never satisfied. For centuries, those who have ventured too deep into the wilderness have gone missing. Their bodies never found. Those who return, their eyes are hollow, their hunger insatiable. The question remains, does the Wendigo still lurk in the shadows, waiting for its next victim? Or does it now wear the face of someone you know?
In the town of Yazoo, Mississippi, an old woman once lived by the river. Feared and hated by the townsfolk, they whispered that she was a witch, using magic to lure boatsmen to their deaths. But when the local sheriff finally came to arrest her, she fled into the swamps. As she sank into quicksand, her last breath was a curse. In 20 years, I will return, and I will burn this town to the ground. Exactly 2 decades later, 1904, Yazoo was engulfed in a massive fire, destroying over 300 buildings. The next day, when the townsfolk visited the witch's grave, they found the chains around it broken, as if she had risen to fulfill her promise. Was it a coincidence, or was it something far more sinister?
Every old theater has its ghost, but Landers Theater in Springfield, Missouri has even more than its fair share. Since opening in 1909, this grand playhouse has witnessed tragedy after tragedy. Fires, murders, accidents, and untimely deaths. Among the spirits said to linger, one stands out. The janitor who perished in a 1920 fire, trapped inside as flames devoured the building. To this day, performers and audience members have reported seeing a shadowy figure sweeping aisles. Others claim that when they look into the balcony, they see faces staring back, even when the seats are empty. Phantom footsteps, doors slamming, and the eerie feeling of being watched while alone in the dressing rooms. Some say the theater itself is cursed. Others believe the spirits of those lost refuse to leave the stage. So next time you find yourself in the audience at Landers Theater, keep an eye on the shadows. You may not be the only one watching this shit.
There's something about haunted hotels. This is where time stands still, where guests check in, but they truly never leave. Nestled in Prairie, Montana, the Chico Hot Springs Hotel is a beloved getaway, but some visitors experience more than just a relaxing stay. A woman in white, said to be the long-lost lover waiting for someone who never returned, wanders the corridors. She is most often seen near room 349, where guests report finding an empty rocking chair swaying back and forth. Even more unsettling, that the same rocking chair sometimes moves to other rooms, always facing the window, no matter how many times the staff tried to reposition it. Is she waiting for a lover who never came back? Or does she simply enjoy watching the guests unseen? If you ever check into the Chico Hot Springs, make sure your chair isn't already occupied.
Yeah.
That's creepy. I could see it swaying in one room by itself, but when it moves and the staff didn't move it, and it always is facing a window, that's strange to me.
In the town of Portal, Nebraska, an old one-room schoolhouse was once filled with laughter and learning, but according to legend, it has become a scene of unthinkable horror. The story goes that a computer-driven map unknown took an axe and slaughtered every single one of her students. Wow. But her madness didn't end there. She placed their severed heads on their desks before taking their hearts to a nearby bridge, throwing them into the water. Now, locals call it Heartbeat Bridge because if you dare to cross it at night, you could still hear the faint sound of the children's hearts beating, a chilling reminder of the horror that took place. Some claim to have seen a ghostly figure of the teacher standing in the distance, her eyes hollow, her axe still dripping with blood. Would you dare to step into the Heartbeat Bridge and listen?
This is why it's called a legend, because this one's kind of weird. You would have thought this one would have been in the papers or something like that. The teacher killing all them kids. Exactly. I don't know that I would cross the bridge, but I mean, it just seems a little weird. For decades, one of America's most infamous urban legends has been hidden in the Nevada desert, behind barbed wire fences and armed guards, Area 51. Officially, it's a military testing site, but conspiracy theorists believe something far more extraterrestrial lurks than its heavy, secure perimeters. Roswell alien spacecraft, advanced technology beyond human comprehension, whispers of a secret Whispers of secret experiments, reverse-engineered alien aircraft, and bizarre sightings of unexplainable flying objects have fueled speculation for years. Many of who have traveled near the base claim to have seen strange lights hovering in the sky, moving in ways no aircraft should. Some former employees allege that the government is hiding crashed UFOs and alien bodies locked away in underground labs. Is Area 51 simply a highly classified military installation, or is it something far more otherworldly being hidden from us? Until the fences come down, the truth remains out of reach or just above us.
Yeah.
But the UFOs, I know there has to be other things out there, but like I've always said, I don't believe in the green aliens coming to anal probe you.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion. Each to their own.
That's right. Some legends are cautionary tales, but others carry a warning that still lingers today. In the early 1700s, Chief Chocorua, a Native American leader, left his son in the care of the Campbell family. But when he returned, his son was dead. The cause, some say it was an accident, others say it was murder. In his grief and rage, Chocorua took his revenge, slaughtering the Campbell family. But one man survived, chasing Chocorua to the top of a mountain. There, with no escape, the chief was shot and killed, but not before cursing the land below. His dying words, "This land shall bring death and suffering to those who try to claim it." Years later, a tragedy struck repeatedly. Settlers who tried to live in the area suffered misfortunes, strange illnesses, and mysterious deaths. Even today, many believe the curse still lingers, warning that Chocorua's spirit never left the mountain. Would you dare to take a hike on the trail? If it's the sun's up, it's daytime, and we're not planning on moving in, I might take a few steps and then turn right back around.
I'm with you, right with you on that one.
I'm like,
daylight, few steps, come back.
That's right. I'm like, look, we're visiting, no lies. I just want to see what happened to you. Okay, I'm out. Make it easy.
Yep. Easy peasy.
That's right.
Yep. Ghosts don't always bring terror. Some just want help. On Clinton Road in Passaic County, New Jersey, a spirit lingers beneath the bridge, waiting for someone to test his legend. They say if you drop a coin into the water below, he will return it to you within 24 hours. Local teens have turned it into a rite of passage, daring each other to see if the ghostly boy truly exists. And time again, the coins come back. But the real question is, how? Is it a trick of the current or a natural phenomenon? Or is there really a child spirit trapped beneath the bridge, eternally honest and endlessly waiting? Would you dare to drop a coin and see if it returns?
I need more coins back. So
yeah, can you give me like 5?
Right? I got to do laundry. It ain't cheap to do laundry when you don't have your own washing machine. So hey.
Right. So in 1947, something fell from the sky near Roswell, New Mexico. Something big. The U.S. military was quick to act, retrieving the debris, shutting down any questions, and claiming it was nothing more than a weather balloon. But not everyone believed them. Jesse Marcel Jr., son of one of the military officers at the scene, described seeing strange debris, pieces of metal that wouldn't bend, I-beams covered in symbols that looked like alien writing. Was it just a weather balloon, or was it the government hiding something far more otherworldly? To this day, Roswell remains one of the greatest UFO conspiracies in history. Was it an experiment gone wrong, or a cover-up, or proof that we are not alone? I've never been to Roswell, and that's my home state, New Mexico. I've never been.
I've been there. In the darkened streets of Staten Island, an urban legend has terrified children for decades. The story of Cropsy, a hook-handed figure said to have escaped from the Willowbrook State School, roaming the woods, haunting children who dared to wander too far from home. For years, it was just that, a story meant to keep kids in line, until it wasn't. In the 1970s and 80s, a real-life child murderer was caught in the area, kidnapping and killing children just as the Cropsy legend had described. Was Cropsy just a nightmare made for real, or had the legend been based on something darker all along? Sometimes stories are just not stories.
Have you ever heard of that, since that's where you were born and raised?
No, I was on Staten Island. I was on Long Island, but not Staten Island. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of it. There's documentaries on that, and it's interesting. It's true. It was a legend until a child murderer was killing the kids in the same way the legend was. So it's interesting.
Something is stalking the forests of Baldenboro, North Carolina. Locals describe it as a massive panther-like creature with glowing red eyes, razor-sharp teeth, and an insatiable thirst for blood. Dogs have been mauled to death, livestock torn apart, and some even claim the beast has attacked people. Despite attempts to hunt it down, the creature is never found. Only the evidence it leaves behind. Is it a mutant beast, a cryptid yet to be discovered? Or is it something far older than any of us, something that knows how to stay hidden until it's ready to strike? If you ever find yourself in the woods at night, listen carefully. You might not be alone.
Beasts and glowing eyes. No thanks. I'm out. I don't want to visit the woods at night. There's too many creatures, animals. Yeah, no thanks. So, along the banks of the Missouri River in North Dakota, a monster waits. The mini Washitu, a giant red hairy creature with a single eye, sharp spikes along its back, and a twisted, unnatural form, is more than just a fearsome sight. It is said that anyone who looks directly at it will suffer insanity, blindness, or worse, death. Legends warn travelers never to stare into the waters too long. The mini Washitu emerge and mark them for doom. Some believe it's just an old tale to keep people away from the river's dangers, but others, they have seen it and never have been the same again. I don't know.
I don't know either.
There's too many weird things that are unknown that we've never seen. That's why these are legends, because I'm like, I would shit myself if I saw something like that. You know what I mean? That's unnatural, you know.
A burned down orphanage, a name that drips with horror. The spirits of children who still wander the ruins. In Lorain County, Ohio, an orphanage once stood, Gore Orphanage. But one fateful night in the woods, a fire broke out and consumed the entire building, trapping the orphans inside. Not a single child escaped. Locals say that if you visit the site today, you might hear the laughter of children or their cries of terror. Some have seen small ghostly figures darting through the ruins, while others claim to smell burning flesh in the air. One legend says that if you stand in the remains of the orphanage and call out to the children, they might call back. But be warned, some visitors say that they left with more than just a ghost story.
Nope. When it comes to children, no thanks. I'm not calling out nobody. Yep, that's a no from me. Crazy stuff. The Beaver Sand Dunes in Oklahoma have earned a chilling nickname, Shaman's Portal, also known as Oklahoma's Bermuda Triangle. For centuries, people have vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. The legend began with Spanish explorers who entered the area and simply disappeared. The local indigenous tribes warned them that the dunes were cursed, that a doorway to another world lay beneath the sands. In modern times, scientists have detected strange electromagnetic disturbances in the area, and some even claim that a UFO crashed there long ago, creating a rift between dimensions. Whether it's a curse, an experiment gone wrong, or something else entirely, one thing is for certain: enter, never return. Would you dare to step into the sands? Yeah, I'm not going.
Along the highways of Cannon Beach, Oregon, there's a figure that shouldn't exist, but he's been seen too many times to ignore. Locals call him the Bandage Man, a man horribly mutilated in a sawmill accident, his body wrapped entirely in bloody bandages, his eyes burning with rage. They say he haunts drivers who park along the highway, appearing suddenly in the backseat of their cars or pounding on their windows, desperate for something or someone. Some never seen him, but feel a presence just outside their car, watching and waiting. Others have reported bloodstains on their doors the next morning. If you ever find yourself on Cannon Beach's deserted roads at night, don't stop.
Not all prisons are meant to hold the living. Shocking. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, one of the most haunted locations in America stands in eerie silence, Eastern State Penitentiary. Built in 1829, this prison was one of the most brutal in history. Inmates were kept in total isolation, starved, beaten, and driven to madness. Many died in their cells, their suffering embedded into the very walls. Now abandoned, the prison has become a hot spot for the supernatural. Visitors report hearing wails echoing down the empty corridors, seeing shadowy figures darting through the ruins and feeling an unseen force pressing down on their chests. During ghost tours, people have been known to run out screaming, certain that something was following them. Would you dare to walk in its halls alone? Alone? No. With people? Yes. And in the daylight.
That is right. If Freddy Krueger sends chills down your spine, you might not want to hear about the legend that inspired him. Deep in the woods of Rhode Island, a wild woodsman with razor-sharp nails is said to lurk in the darkness. Locals call him Fingernail Freddy, a man who was once wronged by society, exiled to the forest, and driven to insanity. He sharpened his fingernails into weapons, waiting for his moment to strike back at those who had wronged him. Campers who venture too deep into the woods report hearing scratching sounds on their tents at night. Some claim they've seen a shadow moving just beyond the trees, and a few unfortunate souls say they woke up to find deep claw marks in their belongings, and even their skin. Is it just a ghost story, or is Fingernail Freddy still out there waiting for his next victim?
My God.
Fingernail
Makes me
Freddy.
not want to camp ever again.
Right.
Gosh. In the early 1800s, Lavinia Fisher and her husband John ran the 6-mile Wayfarer House, an inn just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. But for the unlucky travelers, checking in meant never checking out. Lavinia and John had a gruesome habit of poisoning their guests' tea, waiting for them to pass out, and dropping them through a trapdoor straight into a pit of knives. But one victim escaped, exposing the couple's murderous ways. Lavinia and John were arrested, tried, and sentenced to death by hanging in Charleston's old jail. On the day of her execution, Lavinia wore her wedding dress, laughing manically as she stood on the gallows. Her final words, "If any of you have a message for the devil, tell him I'll see him soon." To this day, visitors report hearing her ghost in the Charleston jail, her shadowy figure pacing the halls, waiting for her next victim. And some say, if you listen closely at night, you can still hear her laughing. But would you dare to visit? I would. I mean, jails are...
Yeah.
I've been to Missouri State Prison as a ghost tour, but I would,
Why not?
I'd visit. Yeah, why not?
In the shadows of South Dakota's Lakota lands, a figure looms tall, too thin, always watching. They call him Walking Sam, a slender man-like entity. Walking Sam is said to prey on young minds, whispering dark thoughts into their ears, urging them to follow him into the night and never return. Tragically, in some communities, real-life cases of mass suicides have been linked to whispers of the dark force that calls to the lonely, the forgotten, the vulnerable. He is just a terrifying metaphor or something far more real, a force that feeds on despair, waiting for the next lost soul to take his hand. If you ever find yourself walking alone at night and hear a voice calling your name, don't answer.
All right, every town has its lover's lane, a place where couples sneak off for a little romance. But in Tennessee, there's one lane you might want to avoid because skinned Tom is waiting. The story goes that Tom was young, charming, and dangerously smooth, seducing women wherever he went. But one night, he met his match. Unknowingly, Tom took a married woman to a secluded lover's lane, never realizing her jealous husband was following them. And when the husband found them, he skinned Tom alive. Now, Tom is said to haunt lovers' lanes all across Tennessee, his bloody, fleshless figure lurking in the darkness, watching and waiting. For what? For those who dare to cheat. Some say he carries a knife, ready to punish the unfaithful. Others say he simply appears in the rearview mirror. His eye sockets burn to your soul. You ever find yourself in a parked car and hear a faint scratching on your window? You might not want to turn around.
Deep in South Texas, the locals know of a creature you do not mock, you do not challenge, and you do not dismiss. The lechuza, a massive 7-foot owl with a woman's face. The lechuza is said to be the spirit of a witch seeking revenge for her murdered child. They say she lurks outside bars, waiting for drunk men to stumble into the streets, her eyes glowing in the darkness. And if she chooses you, you'll hear a terrifying screech, and before you know it, you'll be snatched into the sky, never to be seen again. Some believe the lechuza is just a legend, a way to keep children from wandering at night, but others swear they have seen her perched in the trees, watching with eyes that remember every sin. So if you hear an owl hoot 3 times outside your window tonight, you might not want to go outside.
In Utah's Escalante Petrified Forest, the warning is simple. take nothing, or it will take something from you. Visitors who have ignored the simple rule, who have been taken even the smallest piece of petrified wood, have suffered terrible misfortunes. Car accidents, broken bones, job losses, unexplained illnesses. And when these unfortunate souls realize their mistake, they mail the cursed rocks back, hoping to break the spell. Park rangers receive dozens of letters each year filled with apologies, confessions, and desperate pleas. But the curse is patient, it doesn't forget. So if you ever visit the Escalante Petrified Forest, remember, look, but never take, because if you do, it will take something from you in return. Look, I've said this all the time. Do not take anything that does not belong to you. Petrified, woods, whatever, don't do it. I don't.
I understand. No lava from Hawaii, is it? I think it is. In Brattleboro, Vermont, there stands a tower no one dares to climb. Built as part of an insane asylum in the late 1800s, this tower became a magnet for despair. Patients trapped in their own tortured minds threw themselves from the top, their final screams forever lost in the wind. After too many deaths, the tower was sealed off, but the spirits of those lost, they never left. Visitors report seeing ghostly figures on the ledge over and over, falling but never hitting the ground, like a tragic scene caught in a time loop. Some claim that if you stare at the tower for too long, you'll hear a voice whispering your name, beckoning you to come closer, to look down, to jump. Would you dare to stand beneath the tower and look up?
Near Clifton, Virginia, a bridge stands in silence, stone walls bearing witness to something unspeakable. They call it the Bunny Man Bridge. In 1904, a bus carrying dangerous asylum patients crashed here, leaving the inmates fleeing into the night. All were recaptured except for one, the one they never found. Soon after, half-eaten skin rabbits began appearing, their carcasses hanging from the bridge like warnings. And then on Halloween night, bodies changed. Several teens were found slaughtered beneath the bridge, their remains strangely mutilated, their fate eerily similar to the rabbits. Now, every Halloween at midnight, it is said that if you stand beneath Bunny Bridge, you'll hear footsteps above you, and if you stay too long, you might be next. Would you want to visit there?
There are some places even ghost hunters refuse to go. Maltby Cemetery, Washington, holds one such place, the infamous 13 Steps, a hidden staircase leading into an underground crypt. The legend states that if you descend all 13 steps, you will see a vision of hell itself. Not just fire and brimstone, but your own torment, your deepest fears, your worst sins made real. Those who have dared to descend say they never made it past the 7th step before something pushed them back up, as if warning them not to go further. But a few, they went all the way down, and when they emerged, they saw they never were the same. Would you take that first step to see just what happened?
Nope. I'm good. It's 13, which is my favorite number, but I don't think so. I don't know that I would descend that. That's kind of scary. So some creatures lurk in the dark, waiting to strike. Others, they come as a warning. Point Pleasant in West Virginia is home to a legend so chilling, so well documented, that even skeptics hesitate to dismiss it. The Mothman. A tall, humanoid creature with glowing red eyes and massive wings, the Mothman is said to appear before disasters. And in 1967, he was seen again. For months, locals have reported encounters with the creature, always near the Silver Bridge. Some said they felt the unshakable sense of dread. Others saw him staring into their windows at night. Then on December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. Since then, the Mothman has appeared before tragedies all over the world. If you ever see two glowing red eyes watching you from the darkness, run.
Graveyards are places of rest, but in Appleton, Wisconsin, one grave refuses to stay silent. The gravestone of Kate Blood, a woman who's said to have murdered her husband and children before taking her own life, drips with blood every full moon. At least that's what the legend says. Visitors claim to have seen dark red liquid seeping from the stone, felt a wave of sadness and anger crash over them, and some even say they've heard her ghost crying in the night. But here's the strange part. History shows Kate Blood was not a murderer. She was a loving wife and mother. In fact, she outlived her husband and only child. So why does this legend persist? And more importantly, If she wasn't the one who committed the crime, then whose blood is on the stone? Would you dare touch it?
Yeah, I'm not touching any type of liquid coming from the stone anywhere in a cemetery. Wyoming, the jackalope, a jackrabbit with antlers, has become an iconic symbol of the American West, appearing in postcards, taxidermy, and roadside attractions. While often seen as a humorous hoax, the origins of the legend run much deeper. The story gained popularity in the 1930s when two hunters from Douglas, Wyoming claimed to have caught one and had it mounted. However, the tales of horned rabbits date back centuries in Native American folklore and early settler legends. Some believe these creatures mimic human voices, tricking travelers into wandering deeper into the woods. Cowboy legends warn of the jackalope's danger, claiming it is fast, aggressive, and able to use its sharp antlers as weapons. The most eerie part, it speaks. Stories tell of lone travelers hearing their own voices echoed back as if something unseen was listening, learning, and luring them away. A possible scientific explanation exists. Show papillomavirus, a disease that causes rabbits to grow horn-like tumors, may have led to real-life sightings of antlered hares. But this doesn't explain the stories of the mimic voices or the mysterious surrounding the creature's existence. Whether the jackalope is a tall tale, a misunderstood creature, or something more sinister, its legend endures. Some dismiss it as a joke. Others claim to have seen them dart across the plains or heard their voices in the dark. Maybe, and just maybe, that's what the jackalope wants. All right, some legends are meant to entertain, some are warnings, and some are waiting to be believed. From Hug and Molly's chilling embrace to the jackalope's trickster ways, these tales remind us that the unknown still lingers in the corners of our world. Maybe these are just stories whispered from generation to generation, or maybe the more we tell them, the more they become real. Thank you for joining me on another eerie episode of Half Haunted. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe, share, and send us your own urban legend, and we may just feature them on a new future episode. Until next time, stay in the light, listen closely, and if something whispers your name in the dark, don't answer. Stay haunted.